and thank you for joining us to talk about every giving letter your church needs. My name is Abby, and I am on our marketing team here at Banco, and I cannot wait to share with your church some key items to keep in mind when you are drafting a strong appeal letter, as well as talk through a few guidelines to keep in mind when drafting your thank yous. Now, before we dive into a few specifics around some key items to keep in mind when drafting a strong appeal letter, I do want to remind you, if you are looking for templates that your church can utilize in order to help with your giving appeals, we have a resource that we're going to give you directions on how to download at the end of this video today. That includes over 30 different giving templates that your church can personalize and utilize throughout the year. So again, stay tuned. At the end of this presentation, we're going to talk about how your church can download every giving letter your church needs to get your church started on a strong path towards giving appeals. But let's get started initially with talking about the anatomy of a strong appeal. And in this section, we're going to walk through 7 different items to keep in mind when you are drafting your appeal for the first time. And item number 1 helps us to start off on a strong footing with our giving appeal, and that is by talking about the right address. So your opening address for your giving letter should include 4 key items. This is the full mailing address of the sender, the date you wrote the letter or when it might reach recipients, your recipient's name, title, and address, as well as a salutation. Now, each of these items may be slightly different for your church, and we always encourage you to think about your audience and the tone that you're looking to convey when you are drafting your appeal letter. So titles and salutations may differ based on who you're sending that message to or the type of appeal that is coming with that message. After we have drafted the right address, we are going to move on to our opening statements. And in our opening statements, I always encourage you to think about expressing gratitude and make sure you're communicating a few key details. If you are asking for assistance with a new project or mission goal, make sure you're explaining why you're asking and what you're looking to accomplish with that new project or mission. Additionally, if you're communicating with recurring or past donors, make sure you are expressing gratitude for the donations that they've already given to past projects and past events. And then lastly, if it does make sense, communicate any urgency or importance depending on current events or with things that are happening within the church. Again, if you are driving towards a deadline for these goals, make sure you're communicating that out so your members understand the urgency and importance that are coming behind this ask. So now that we've gotten the right address, we've expressed gratitude, we want to make sure that we are explaining what this fundraising supports or why we are making the ask in the first place. And while you're doing that, I really encourage you to keep a few things in mind. Make sure you are using individual personal language for each congregation, family, or message. Write these in the second person voice so it creates a more personal impact. And lastly, make sure you are using storytelling elements that include the problem, ongoing challenges, and potential resolutions. Bringing the story into your appeal and also to showing where you're hoping to go in that potential resolution is going to help your members build up motivation and want to become a part of helping your church create that resolution. And additionally, explain the results the fundraiser will likely have on the church and the community. If you're talking about what you are hoping to accomplish, and then also following up with the actual results, it's going to build that confidence and help you grow continual givers. So after explaining what your fundraising supports, we're going to move into describing the church's financial state and need. Now, the best thing to do when asserting the church's need is to highlight that every dollar counts. So you want to make sure that individuals know that if they're giving what they're able to give, everything is making an impact, no matter how large or how small that seems. Additionally, you may consider highlighting statistics about the percentage of donors who do or don't give. Thinking back to that every dollar counts, highlighting the number of individuals within the church who do give and the impact that that group can have if everyone gives just a small amount really does show how together a community can have a great impact. And lastly, again, if you are talking to recurring or repeat givers, personal messages of past gifts and the results that they help to produce really does encourage more donations. When they see that you are good stewards of their money and helping to circle back on the impact that they made collectively within the community can really help to encourage that continual giving or giving to new causes that they may not have chosen to support in the past. So now we have expressed generosity, we've talked about why fundraising, we've talked about the financial state of the church. Now it comes down to time to make the ask. And your suggestion for the ask portion can include any number of the following elements. It may talk about suggested amounts to give. It could discuss the options that you have within your online giving or just the church office itself for recurring payment options, whether that's on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or annual basis. And I always encourage you to talk about what payment methods your church offers. If they are a newer member or a guest, they may not know that you have the capability for them to give via their debit card, credit card, checking or savings account. And bringing those options to the forefront can help to alleviate some of those barriers that may have been present in the past if they thought they were only able to give with cash or when they are in person within the church. So after we've made the ask, we want to focus forward with church mission goals. So again, this is a great opportunity for you to reiterate the why behind your ask. You may also want to include a final note of gratitude for current donors. And then lastly, highlight how new donations enrich the community to inspire long-term members to donate more. Again, utilize this section for your church to look forward as to what you are hoping to accomplish and paint the picture of what goals you have as a church for how you're going to make an impact in the coming weeks, months, and years. And then lastly, as I mentioned, our seventh step is that closing and wrapping of the letter. In here, you are going to tie everything together and use sincerity as well as your official title when you are closing. This is a great time to highlight the need and appreciation you have for your members one last time, as well as provide any necessary contact information for anyone who may have questions or who wants to have a conversation prior to making a donation. Having all that information easy for the recipient of that letter to take action on is going to help with driving forward your results. So now that we have discussed the anatomy of a strong appeal, we know that this is going to help your church to see a great increase in generosity among your members. So that's why we also want to spend a few moments in our presentation today talking about some thank you member guidelines. So as you are thinking about drafting thank you messages for your past and current givers, here are 7 things to keep in mind to draft a strong thank you message. First, be grateful. Second, be genuine. Third, be specific. So when you're thinking about that opening, make sure you are expressing that generosity genuinely, but also to make sure that you are being specific by talking about the gift that they gave specifically and the impact that it had. Additionally, be personal, whether that is writing in your own personal voice or talking about an experience that the two of you had together, if they happen to have donated not only currency, but also to their time to that cause. Additionally, remind your donors of how their generosity directly benefited the church or the community, and write this in your church's voice. Now, that is a lot of guidelines to keep in mind, so I'm going to wrap it up by saying, don't be afraid to keep it short and sweet. As long as you're writing from the heart and being specific, those donors are going to feel your gratitude and the thanks that you have for how you help to support their missions, and that is going to encourage them to continue being a strong advocate for your church. So I did mention this in the beginning, but if you are looking for templates to help your church get started, our content resource, Every Giving Letter Your Church Needs, includes a variety of templates for a variety of different occasions that your church can utilize in order to start drafting and sharing strong appeals with your members. So I highly encourage you to download our asset today, and I can't wait to see how your church personalizes these giving templates to fit your needs. Thanks, everyone.